Some people call it dropping out. I was done. It was a brain conundrum. It just didn't function for me to learn economics at a college level and math and history. My brain didn't function. I was scared of for my life. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know who I was going to become. I lived in fear because I knew that I wasn't very bright. And I answered an ad in the newspaper. And by the way, John, it was 19 weeks ago yesterday that you were the guest on my podcast.
Wow.
And I've got your notes from me interviewing you in that book right there on that day on October 21st of 2020. And I ask every guest what the 3 things are that have shaped their life. And man, you just set us on a course that day that was just so beautiful, because the first one, which I highlight every time I see it in the Bible, I underline it in red and I circle it. And John said that the number one thing for him was preparation. And we're not talking about preparation H here. We're talking about preparation for life, for every day. And John just set us on I think we were live, John. We went for 50 full minutes. And you just filled up the screens with wisdom that was amazing. And it was because I walked into a parking lot at the age of 19. The meeting was at a small little hotel in downtown Seattle. And here I bring my mother to this meeting, who now lives in San Antonio, Texas. And I walk out, and my sponsor gives me the opportunity to purchase my first set of products. And his sponsor walked up and said that this book changed his life. But I didn't have it in the greatest salesman form. I had it in the greatest secret form. So the greatest salesman is the story with Hafid and Pathros and the entire story of selling. And then, of course, the greatest secret, okay, I have so many copies. I have I don't know, John, if I shared this with you on our podcast, but I have the autograph version from Og. Okay, I met him one time. And somebody sent me a copy of that one. And then I'm at the Tattered Covered Bookstore, for those of you that love Denver, Colorado. And I can tell you the exact date, because I'm in that bookstore February 1st of 1998, and I buy 4 copies of the 10 Ancient Scrolls for my daughters. And to this day, my daughters still know those scrolls, and they know that when I talk about them, that they remember where they were. And as a family, as an 8-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 14-year-old sitting there reading scrolls with Dad. And, it wasn't very long when we're into this. And, okay, Dad, can we just do one scroll tonight, when you got the bunch of youngsters. But I was fortunate to be at the right place at the right time. And there was something that changed my brain. And it was quite substantial. And it was when my mother taught me how to read the sports page. The Seattle Times was the afternoon paper in Seattle. The Seattle PI, the Post-Intelligencer, was a morning paper. We always got the evening paper, and then, of course, Sunday morning. But I remember the day, August, I actually have my application, August of 1982. I'm reading the paper, and the ad says, "Are you making what you're worth?" I live in Beverly Hills, California. I drive a Clinet, and I made $96,000 in the health and nutrition industry in the last 6 months. Supervisory positions available was the thing. And I thought, holy cow, 96,000, I could supervise. That was the title of top breakaway position. And lo and behold, 4 days of fear before I called the ad. One guy calls me back, I should say, after the answering service passes on my number. Tells me to meet him. I wear my topsiders. I got my best jeans on, my nicest tennis shirt that I own, hair down to my shoulders. And lo and behold, I'm a 19-year-old punk kid, and this guy starts telling stories. And I thought, I can do that. And he told me a story about a guy named Santo Roberto, who was a couple years older than me. Told me a story about a guy named Ron Touchard, a couple years older than me. And they weren't the most skilled guys either, but they learned how to tell stories. I mean, they were so skilled that they would walk up to people and say, hey, you're fat, you need this. And that just doesn't go over very well. You got to try a little bit more tactful way of approaching people when you're in the weight loss nutrition business. But what I quickly learned was that my paycheck would be aligned with my personal growth. And all of these books behind me, these are all Og Mandino books, okay? And then I have books on top of books on top of books on the other shelves. And I was fortunate to meet the most genuine person in the world, and that's my wife. And she was genuine in her approach, whether it was this book or the Christ Commission or The Choice or the God Memorandum, all of the great books that Og wrote. And while she was my upline, and it's always good to marry your upline if anybody's single and your upline is single, it's a good thing. You double, triple dip the compensation plan. Worked out so fantastic. But she was just so genuine. And you know what I learned is what Stephen Covey said is so true. And this is why I don't know you all, but I love you all. I don't know you all, but I know you all know enough to be at the top of your plan, to be the leader of people, men and women, children, youngsters. I know that you can do this because I did it. And my wife did it. But my wife had a teacher too. And she had an example. And it was her dad. And I didn't have that. Her dad had this bookshelf. Her dad had these books. And her dad, as a businessman in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, owned a business. And guess what all the business guys did once a month or once every 2 weeks? They had a book club. We're talking about 1975, 76, 78, 79. And what are they reading? They're reading Og Mandino. They're reading Zig Ziglar. They're reading Dennis Waitley. They're reading Napoleon Hill. They're reading the icons that were genuine, true, authentic people. And I really don't know, when you look at the world of social media today, and everybody is trying to sell you their latest and greatest thing, and they're the greatest, you know, because if you're going to be on social media, you're pretty much telling people how great you are to buy from them. And the thing that's so unique about Og Mandino is he only had 1 or 2 speeches. Like he says in the book, you know, how much money can someone make just mastering one presentation? Just one. I mean, Peter Vidmar, my good friend, the Olympic gymnast from 1984, two-time Olympic gold medalist, he just had a couple of routines. He just had one speech as a public speaker that put him in the Hall of Fame for public speaking. So mastering your craft, and I take it to this level with Og. That Og wrote this book from a very interesting place. And think about whatever your hardest time in life is. Og went through 10 years of a living hell being an alcoholic. He was addicted to the bottle. So he literally says on our website, if you go to thegreatestsalesman.com, which is my page where all the podcasts are, thegreatestsalesman.com, he says down there in that Og clip, my life was a living hell. And he walked into a library, and lo and behold, he reached out to W. Clement Stone and got in the insurance business. Then he became the editor-in-chief of Success Magazine. And he was real. When he was on stage, he was the same guy as when he wasn't on stage. And I love that about people. And I love that about every one of my guests on my Greatest Salesman podcast, is they're truly genuine, authentic, amazing people. I mean, John's the same guy, whether he's bench pressing 400 pounds at 59 years of age, right? And he's got all that moxie going. He's in that room with all those muscles. He's still a genuine, authentic, beautiful man. And so what Og taught me was that today I begin a new life. That's scroll number 1. And when you read scroll number 1 next time, think about your hardest days ever, because that's what Og wrote. He's writing the paradigm of an alcoholic. Today, I begin a new life. Isn't that just magical? I mean, Og was a deeply spiritual man, and he believed that he was present when the scrolls were coming to him. I mean, seriously study the words of the scrolls and ask yourself, who knows the word equanimity in 1968 when it's, you know what I'm saying? He was just so beautiful on the words that came to him inside of these scrolls. So then I say to myself, here I am. I'm a 19-year-old young man. I start the process. And by the way, does anyone know, if anyone wants to take it off mute, I'll ask you a question. Does anyone know what Og says at the beginning of the book on the odds that he gives you to complete the scrolls? Does anyone recall? If you don't, that's okay. I'm seeing if I have it highlighted in my book here in the preface. I believe he says 75-1 odds.
Wow.
That's long odds. So I didn't do it. I tried it, and I lost my rhythm with travel. I was 19. I got married at 19, married my upline, as I told you. But the second time, I still have my piece of paper right here, my job title, my income, what I want my income to be 52 weeks later, or 50 weeks later when I finish the 10 scrolls. And it's magical. It happened. So what struck me is that coming from a place of a single parent home, really an awkward individual, I wanted money. Make no mistake about it. I wanted money. I wanted to be successful. I worked at a tennis club. Everybody there had money to be a member at a private club in 1977, 78, 79, 80 when I was there. And I met professional athletes in the world of tennis, basketball, football, and the Seahawks, the Sonics, the Mariners, the Seattle Tennis Cascades. I met them. I played tennis with them, basketball with them, etc. And I just wanted what they had because I was so shallow. I just wanted the money. I just thought that was it. If I had the money and I had the BMW and I had the bling, that would be it. And so when you look at the true, genuine, authentic writers, Stephen Covey used to say that he could tell when somebody asked him to write a foreword to a book or a preface to a book, he could tell immediately if the author wrote the book for himself or the audience.
Wow.
Isn't that fascinating? Amazing. A lot of people ask Stephen Covey to endorse their book or write a My wife had Stephen as a professor at BYU. So when you read something like this, like to me, you lose me immediately if you have a 4-letter word that's in the title of your book. It's like I wouldn't even look at it because it's just laziness. It's just somebody looking for attention. If I go to the Bible and I read what Proverbs says about why we use proper language, okay, it's an extremely rare thing. And in this day and age, I was listening to a very famous, fascinating podcast the other day of somebody that I really think can do a lot for the world. And they just kept dropping F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb. I just thought this is just so inappropriate. You got kids that are going to listen to this. In my mind, there's just never a time to use foul language, especially because it'll seep into that other mind. And so Og, think about Og's words, and let's talk about scroll number 2 for a minute. He says, I will greet this day with love in my heart. Muscle can split a shield and even destroy life, but only the unseen power of love can open the hearts of men and women. And until I master that art, I will remain no more than a peddler in the marketplace. So when we look at love, I can say, John, I love you. And we know that the Philia version of love, the Philadelphia, is brotherly love. Eros is a romantic love, and agape is a godly love. So I can have love for all of you as my brothers and sisters and think of the words and the feelings, because we know that 90% of the sale is nonverbal, right? One of the first seminars I ever went to with Tony Robbins, 90% of the sale is nonverbal, right? So if you said to yourself, and we meet today, and I meet Jerry, or I meet Sue, and we're at, the supermarket, the fitness center, wherever we're at, and I meet somebody, and in my heart of hearts, I can just say, Sue, I love you. You just think about the genuine, authentic writings that came from this man that lived in hell for 10 years. But the paradigm shift, just that subtle paradigm shift, today I begin a new life. Wow. I will greet this day with love in my heart. Wow. I was listening to a podcast about an hour ago. I was at an eye appointment, just checking on my eye pressure, et cetera, et cetera. And I was listening to this podcast, and this gentleman called the guy a legend. And he says, no, don't call me a legend. He says, just call me someone, and I'm going to just set it up for you here a little better. He says, just call me someone that's just insatiably persistent. And so I pull up scroll number 3 for you for that. He didn't want to be called a legend. No, I will persist until I succeed. So not knowing where you're at in your life, relationships you have, where you're at in your compensation plan, being the greatest. Maybe you're my next podcast guest on the greatest salesman in the world, right? You're crushing it. Not only are you crushing it with the goals of your business, but you invested in you. And so whether it's any one of these books that I have here, obviously these are my greatest salesman, greatest secret books. And I cherish them because they genuinely made a difference in my life. And I was inviting another individual on the podcast that I'll share a funny story with you. I got this text last week from somebody that I know of. He's in the Hall of Fame for great Americans, he's in the Hall of Fame for great public speakers and whatnot. And I get this random text from this individual. And he says, hey, I just spent a week with so-and-so. And I asked him a question. Very, very big name in the world of direct selling. Traveled hundreds of countries, if there's such a thing. He's traveled for 20 years teaching the world network marketing. And this gentleman spent a week with him. He says, hey, can you tell me who is the number one network marketer? And the guy says, I am. And the guest said, hey, okay, if you're number one, can you tell me who's number two? And he says, I am. And he says, no, really, if it's not you, can you tell me who the top networker in the world is? And he said, Dan McCormick. And I thought, wow, there's people that make a lot more money than me. There's people that maybe drive fancier cars than me. They look like they own the world. And I called him today and I just said, hey, dude, I said, I don't know what you were thinking when you said that, but I just want to say thank you. I said, to get a text from the guy that's asking you that question, and the guy said he wanted to meet me just because you said that, I thought, that's kind of cool. And you know what it inspires me to do? Be kinder and nicer to more people. Because I truly believe that I will greet this day with love in my heart. I walked into the eye exam. The lady says, how's your day? I said, like I always do. And Og says it twice in the book. If you ever figure out where the two times are, he says, I'm having the best day of my life. It's twice in the book. So I adopted that. And if somebody asks me how I'm doing, I said, I'm having the greatest day of my life. One day, somebody was so perplexed, and you tell me when to shut up, John, because I don't know how far you want me to go. One day, I'm getting on an airplane, and this guy sitting next to me, I'm getting on the airplane, someone says, how you doing? I think a flight attendant at the front of the plane. I'm having the greatest day of my life. And a couple in front of me getting on the plane, turned around and said, I'll have what he's having. And I sit down, and the guy says, so you're having the greatest day of your life? Yeah. Well, do you have kids? I said, yes. Today's a greater day than when you had your kids? I said, no. The day my children were born was the single most spiritual day of my life. But that day isn't here anymore, and today is the greatest day of my life. Tomorrow will be the greatest day. Yesterday's gone, tomorrow's not here. Today, Og says, I will live this day as if it is my last. So I tell you, it's an honor for me to be with you. I hope I said something that inspires you to study the words. Like I heard last week, is it true? Does anyone have a copy of this book called The 5 a.m. Club? I'd never heard of that, but I get up about 5 a.m. and I sit over here. I kneel over there, and my journals and my books and my Bibles and everything, everything's right over there in my office, and I start my day there. And I had not heard of the 5 a.m. Club. So Foster, I'd love to get a few thoughts from you on that one. But I wonder if, please feel free to take it off mute. If there's any questions for me, I can just say that I love people. And I really believe in the human race. I believe in every aspect that everyone can reach the goals that they have if they're willing to make the sacrifice. Remember, Og gives you 75 to 1 odds. I'll turn it over to you guys if there's any questions, John.
I'm sure there are, Dan. Couple of comments. I mean, first of all, thank you. I mean, folks, you have no idea. Maybe some of you do. Some of you have been in the industry a long time. Like I said, when I say Dan is an icon in the industry, he's an icon. But what I love about him, amongst a lot of things, and we've become good friends over the years. We rarely get to see each other. It's mostly like this these days, right? Podcasts or the occasional phone call, right?
Yeah.
But we live in different parts of the country. But this is what our business is about. Self-development, personal growth, relationships. And Dan, by the way, Dan's the guy that got me to start doing podcasts, by the way. He even found me the company. Yeah, okay.
That's right. We use the same company, I think.
That's right. Well, yeah, you introduced me to those guys, and they've been great.
Yeah. Good.
And I'm still figuring it out, but I've been interviewing friends now for about the last month, starting with Foster, and we've had some great people on there. Jeff Weisberg, another friend of yours, and Larry and Taylor yesterday, and just a whole. I interviewed a lady, Dan. You're going to love this, being the athlete that you are. I interviewed a lady who's one of 19 people ever who has swam all 7 oceans in the world successfully.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
Really cool. Really cool.
Got to go listen to that.
Yeah. Well, I haven't released that one yet, but so,
okay.
but so here's where we're at, everybody. Okay. We'll go around. Okay. And we'll just do it in an orderly fashion. I'll play school teacher here, and I'll say, what's your question for Dan while we got him. Okay. And let's try to not be redundant. If somebody asks a question, you get the same question, either pass or rephrase your question if there's something else. But let's take this opportunity while we've got Dan. His time is extremely valuable. All yours is as well, but his is, he's doing this as a favor, but he loves Oak. And Dan, I just want to say now, I know you, what's your role with Oak's company? I know you have a role with them.
Yeah. So so it's a funny story. I had Dave Blanchard, the owner of the Augmentino company, and his son Paul Blanchard, who started the Habit Finder within the company. And he had been on my show, my Saturday show for my company, 50 times in the last 18 years.
Wow.
And one day I just said to him a couple of years ago, I said, you know what, I just send you guys so much business, and I just love, everything Og ever wrote. I said, why don't you just pay me to be the ambassador to the company? So I actually paid them thousands of dollars to become a certified coach within the company, knowing that I wasn't going to coach, because I know that individual coaching an hour at a time isn't really what I want to do. But some people love doing that. And so I became the ambassador to the company. And so what my job is to facilitate people that want to literally measure their thoughts, okay, against these scrolls, if you will. And so we use a science of axiology, mathematics from the University of Tennessee. We invite you to take a free test. I'll give you the website here in a minute. It's free, and you can take this assessment, measure your thoughts, not what you think, because we don't want to know what you think, but we want to know how you think. Now imagine, John, we have 150,000 people, entrepreneurs and network marketers, inside of our study base. So we know that 97% of all network marketers are vivid visualization professionals. The day they sign up in network marketing, they can see them driving in their Lamborghini. They can see themselves sitting on the beaches of their private island and toes up and the margarita's coming or whatever. But what you got to make sure that everybody really loves is the process going through the journey. The vivid visualization all by itself leads to frustration and breakdown and disappointment and hatred for network marketing. But if you measure your thoughts, it'll blow you away. So I'm the ambassador to the company. I do the podcast every Wednesday, or I missed last week on vacation. I've missed a couple weeks here and there, but it's fascinating. My job is to find the greatest salespeople in the world. Not all of them are network marketers, but most of them have been friends of mine or read the book. I want to get Matthew McConaughey on the show because Matthew pretty much said, this is the book that came into my life. And you guys realize the difference in his life?
Unbelievable.
This way went as a lawyer. This way, with the greatest salesman in the world, went to become who Matthew McConaughey is today.
That's right. And it's funny. His brother lives in Abilene. Super successful billionaire. Most people don't know this. Yeah, his brother's a billionaire, and he's a true Texas billionaire. The guy does not own a tie, does not own a suit, wears a bolo tie, if anything. But his brother references the book on one of his shows as well. So you got two brothers, both super successful, two completely different walks of life. Both of them reference this book. So how valuable is this book? So Dan, here's what we're going to do. I'm not going to introduce everybody's whole MO and all that just for the sake of time. But I'm going to start with Tom Aldershaw. He's read the book many times. Tom is an amazing guy in his own right, Dan. Raises a ton of money for people, homeless people in his community by riding his bicycle. He's 78 years old. He rides his bicycle 130 kilometers, okay, which is about 75 miles US, okay, to raise money every year for people in his community. Big fan, has read this book a gazillion times. So I wanted to start with Tom. Tom, go ahead. You got a question for Dan?
Basically, Dan, when it comes to the book, I've adopted, I will form good habits and become their slaves. It's made many changes in my life, and I'm still working on changes. When it comes to raising money, I've committed $1 million by 2026. So I've got a lot of work to do, but change is really the key. And the other thing that's happened is when it comes to reading books, I always read books, but now become a super reader of books based on people like yourselves, people like John Foster, that when it comes to books, you need to read books to change.
I love that. I had a friend tell me, he says, you don't read books. You read magazines and throw them away. You study books.
Study books, yeah.
And I'm a reader. Readers are leaders, and et cetera. But that's beautiful. And by the way, if you'll please private message me if you're on Facebook, I'd love to see your goals and what you're looking forward to raising your money for.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Great. Hyacinth, how are you? You got to unmute.
Yes. Sorry. I'm here looking, listening, and learning.
You have a question or comment for Dan?
I'm just saying I just love Dan's energy and the way how he expresses and explains how to, not just to read a book, but to study the book, which you and Foster mentioned that most of the time. And I'm really processing that in my head that, yes, I do need to not just read the Bible or any book, but to study the book. So read it over and over and make notes. And I realize when I do that, each time I do it, I learn something different. So it's a good thing to do, to study instead of just reading. And magazine you read and throw away. So I love that. And books you really study.
So I love sharing this story. If I could just add to your mention of the Bible. A friend of mine was a professor, a religious studies major at Arizona State University. When we talk about reading versus studying, I want you to think about the first two words of the Bible. Does anyone know the first two words of the Bible?
In the.
In the. The third word is beginning, but he wrote his thesis on in the.
Huh.
So when you're talking about studying versus reading, I wouldn't even know where to start with in the.
As writers, Dan, we go a lot of directions in the, right?
Yeah,
Tremendous Dean, got a question for Mr. McCormick.
I don't know if I have a question, but I do have to say that because of you, I bought this book. Whoops, now I'm throwing it around. I bought this book. Because of you, I started reading it. Because of you, it really went into my heart. And because of you, I'm trying to do 1 month on each of the chapters. And so far, I'm doing fair. I'm not doing as good as I wanted to, but I'm doing fair.
that's great. Tremendous, Dean. Love it.
Dr. White, what do you got over there in Toronto, Canada? Besides a lot of snow.
Or it's a bit cold still. In my lifetime, I've always gotten in trouble with one major thing: loving people. People misunderstand and think that I was a pervert, and that whole idea of being arms wide open, loving, got me in trouble a lot of times because people will say, you're not supposed to do that. You're just supposed to love your wife or your kids, not the world. Eh? Anyway, that's good to hear from you.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. I think the world would be a lot better if we're all comfortable saying I love you.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Boston, Massachusetts. Kelvin, got a question or comment for Dan?
Yes, Dan. What I like about the book, first of all, I read both books, part 1 and 2. And outside of John's moving up, this is the second self-development book I ever read. So I was never into self-development, but I'm starting to see that. I should have been with this a long time ago because I'm 62, right? And but one thing about this book I really like is where you be persistent. You don't give up. You just keep going.
Yeah.
And I had those challenges in my life where car accidents, COPD, going blind, but I just kept going. I never let anything, never gave up. I slowed down with Immunotech for about 4 years, but I didn't quit.
Yeah.
And reading these self-development books and this group here is inspiring me. Okay, you did all these other things, so now this here has to be your project. You have to complete. So this is where I'm at.
Wow. Thank you. If I could comment on that, John.
Please.
It's interesting that when you think about let me see if I have the right copy here. So this, at the back of this version of the book, he would list his 12 greatest self-help books. So he went from the autobiography of Ben Franklin, which is where he got the idea, I'm sure, of the scrolls, because as you know, Ben studied his 13 virtues for all those years, right? Think and Grow Rich, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, The Power of Faith, Your Greatest Power, I Dare You by William Danforth, which is just brilliant. Your Greatest Power, Acres of Diamonds, The Ability to Love. How about that? The Ability to Love. How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling by Frank Bettker. The Magic Power of Emotional Appeal. And then he put this last one, As a Man Thinketh. And then he goes on to say, but wait a minute, you might have counted those 12 and only came to 11. Because he says, the odds are excellent that you already have the 12. Dust it off. Right? The Bible is right there for you. But what I want to say,
that's another thing I want to add. I never realized how Bible-based these books are, because I'm also a minister. So it was really intriguing that everything was pretty much based on the Bible, the way from all the books that I read so far.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Colin. So I want to say this because I think it'll be a benefit to your business. I think what I would say the two greatest lifetime learning books outside of sacred wisdom literature would be The Greatest Secret in the World, Greatest Salesman in the World, and Ben Franklin's Virtues, because there's a habitual philosophical approach to that. I think Tony Robbins calls it CANI, right, John?
Yeah.
Constant and never-ending improvement. Is that right, Foster?
Yep.
Constant and never-ending improvement. But I want you to think about this now, because you could become an expert in the book, but this is a philosophy for living. This is a systematic approach to make your life better. But I tell my leaders in my downline that you got to work harder on you than you do on your job, but you have to work on your systems for business. Your business systems have to stay current. They have to constantly be getting simpler. Your onboarding process, your duplication model, all of those systematic approaches that help you duplicate your organization have to be as impactful and as rewarding than your personal development. So systems for living, that's your reading curriculum and your learning curves, but systems for duplicating and leveraging your life and your business. That's what John is master.
Thank you. So let's keep going here quick. Dan, you good for about another 15, 20?
You bet.
Good. Okay. So let's go quick. Question or comment, Sue? Baltimore Sue.
I guess, well, one question I have is, what's the name of your podcast, Dan?
The Greatest Salesman. And you can find that on Facebook or YouTube. You can just type in The Greatest Salesman. Dan, I think on YouTube you type in The Greatest Salesman, Dan McCormick. I'm not sure why it loads that way. Or you can just go to the web. You can go to the website, thegreatestsalesman.com. Or if you are, is there any podcasters here?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
if you're a podcaster, you can just go to the podcast site. I actually find it fascinating now. Every time I just go to the podcast, whenever I'm working out or want to be inspired, I just go to the podcast link. And once I click on my page, for whatever reason, I don't know why it's not showing me, but once I click on my podcast page, I just listen to whoever comes up.
Okay, good. Basically, through the years, I've spent all my time working for my job, and that job has literally swallowed me up whole. And I guess I've developed some bad habits, and reading your book has given me steps to take to make myself a better person, and I'm really grateful for that. And I'm going to do like Dean's doing the 30 days for each scroll, because got to get rid of those bad habits and start better habits. The one I do struggle with is greet this day with love in your heart.
Yeah, me too. It was so hard.
When you've been hurt a lot, it's hard to project that love anymore, and you internalize everything into totally do an about face and change. That's a struggle.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It's a fascinating thing to know that the Bible, every teaching in the Bible is okay with struggle. Think about it. Every story, every family, doesn't matter if it was gays and lesbians back in the day. Doesn't matter if it's not honoring your wife or spouse. Doesn't matter if it's theft. Doesn't matter. I mean, there's just struggle. Always going to be struggle. But Sue said something that really struck a chord with me. Can I share something with you, Sue?
Go ahead.
I love what this book did for me, and it is called Money Loves Speed. And it changed a paradigm for me that you just touched on, because I mentioned in my story about my struggle, but what Dr. Joe Vitale wrote here in just one simple line, you don't even have to read the book if I can just share this line with you. But the book, I just loved it because one of my podcast guests shared it with me because she was sharing it with her entire team. And I hope that this comes across properly to all of you, because we all have different paradigms about money. And what his mentor taught him, his mentor was Arthur Patent. He taught him the following words, very simple. The sole purpose of money is to express appreciation. And so every dime or nickel that I see I saw it in the parking lot up in Bryan Head, Utah last week. I picked up a dime, a nickel, and a penny. It's 0 degrees, and I immediately say, I am so lucky. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Money finds me everywhere I go. And if Sue could take the paradigm of the struggle and change it to appreciation, your life will explode with experiences like you've never had before. Being grateful that you had to go, whatever God thought enough of you to go through that struggle. And I can tell you that I am so appreciative that 2 hours ago I had enough money to go do my eye exam. I'm so appreciative that when I called my wife on the way home, and I texted John, I said, 50 minutes, right? He says, yep. I called my wife. I said, honey, I am so hungry right now. I got to go get a burrito at the La Fiesta here. I am starving. And I said, I am so grateful that I have the money right now to pull in here and buy a burrito. So all I'm trying to say to you is, whatever that challenge is that Aug's teaching us about, I will greet this day with love in my heart. Remember, scroll number 1 was coming off 10 years of hell. Today I begin a new life. So Sue, just like you, I had so much self-doubt, so much anger because my mom and dad got divorced, so much fear that I couldn't read the book and comprehend anything. But now I just tell everybody, I don't know very many things. I know very little things in the world, but I really know what I know pretty well. And I'm still on the journey with you, Sue. I'm going to learn to be better every single day. I think, Sue, if you take upon yourself to let money, every ounce of every contact, every struggle, if you can just appreciate it, because everything that's ever happened to you and me in our lives is perfect. And I mean perfect.
God, thank you.
Great stuff. So I don't know if everybody else has questions, but I'll just pick on you fast. If you do, let's go ahead. Jerry, you have a question?
I have to get my mic working. Is it working?
You good? You have a question?
I hear
Dan?
you.
Sorry, being my first night, you have to give me a couple weeks to get into everything.
Okay.
At this point in time, I never caught the name of the book.
The greatest salesman in the world.
Was that what it was? Okay.
Og Mandino.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. Jacoba?
Hi. Yeah. I just a comment that I wanted to make, that I am so appreciative, and I'm so elated to see how the book, I haven't read the whole book, just bits and pieces, and other books, and the way that Dan is talking, and the way that John has talked, and the way that Foster has talked, how you take the principles of the Bible and it's connected to our lifestyle, the way we should live it, the way that the Creator created it to be, and it's become so simple. And I used to say that if anybody asks me who I am blessed and highly favored. And I feel it. I said, I'm blessed. I appreciate it. I feel today. I have today. So I am so thankful that it works. And I'm going to continue what I started doing when you said about loving. Each day I work in the emergency department, and I said, let me show that love practically in whatever form that I have to show it, whether in empathy, in appreciation, in making somebody happy, in making somebody elevating somebody's stress, and appreciating it. And I'm so thankful that it's a confirmation that I'm not falling short, but I'm getting there. On the right path, yes. And I just want to thank all of you for that. It's such an amazing feeling, and I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful for all of you. That's all I have to say.
In my mind's eye, you kind of just quoted Jude 122. And some have compassion, the scripture says, making a difference. That's the entire verse.
Yes.
Oh my. Thank you, Jacoba. That was beautiful.
Amen. Thank you.
So Maggie, did you have a question for Dan or comment?
I won't be offended, Maggie, if you don't.
That's okay. Well, what I noticed, this is the first time I've been on this, on the, with the books. And it was really amazing that you touched me tonight with just what I needed. And basically years ago, I had all those books and I read every one that you've mentioned. And then stuff happened and they left. So I don't know where they are, but what's really good is that you've inspired me to get them back, and to go through them. And it's really good to, be with everybody that are like-minded and we like the same thing. And love is the answer, really. Yeah.
Sure is. Well, thank you, Megan. And Maggie unmuted also. So
yes,
Maggie, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, the wrong Maggie.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Two Maggies are better than one. Maggie.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm so grateful for everything. I can see the book that we are reading. It's intertwined with the Bible. And before I didn't like reading at all, but since we started the book club, I've been reading a lot. And I think in the 10th scroll, it says, my dreams are worthless, my plans are dust, my goals are impossible. All are of no value unless they are followed by action. So it's exactly the same thing that we are doing with our business. If we don't do the action every day, the action, and we don't follow, it's nothing.
Scroll number 9.
Yeah, number 9. Okay.
I will act now. Yeah.
Man.
Exactly. So we got time for a couple of more quick ones. Cheryl, you want to go ahead? You have a question for Dan? And then we'll go to George after Cheryl.
I don't have a question, just a comment. I'm thankful to be on the call tonight. This is my first time on, and it's really timely. And I'm just inspired to start hitting the books and start reading. I had this book before, I'm going to get it, and I need to start reading because one of the quotes that you mentioned, today I begin a new life?
Correct. Yeah.
That is phenomenal. Totally. And I needed that desperately because I had a situation. I was in the hospital today and I didn't have a good experience. I am a healthcare worker. I didn't have a good other side of the table. And I was very, very discouraged. But every situation that you go through, you mentioned that too, you look at that as appreciate what you went through because it's for a reason. And I'm thankful to be here because I'm going to let go of that feeling of disappointment and realize that it was for a purpose. So thank you, Paul, tonight. It was really good.
Thank you.
Great. George, you have a question?
Guys hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Don, I must congratulate you to bringing up, it's a good thing to marry your upline. I married my upline.
George, we can't hear you for some reason.
Hear me now?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, like I was saying, I married my upline. Foster knows about it. John knows about it. And my new life started from 2009 when I met her. So I joined Immunotech and then I become Silver. And from then on, we're here all the time. So I couldn't ask for a better upline.
Beautiful.
Great, great. So Cheryl or Errol, if you guys want to ask questions, if you can turn your camera on. If not, I'm going to go to Foster quick. I know he's got another call. He's going to depart us a couple minutes here, but I want him to get a chance to chat with Dan a little bit.
Well, Dan, thanks again for being here, Dan. I mean, you're a true champion to not only this industry, but you have blessed us with your presence, and John choices are always, on point for us. Yeah, so this is Robin Sharma for sure, the 5 a.m. Club.
There it is.
Great litigation lawyer, well, former litigation lawyer in Toronto. I know him personally. Has an origin from Africa, but he's been a very successful litigation lawyer, and he made a change in his life. For me, what I would like to ask for you to perhaps make the connection here is the scroll number 10, who is of so little faith, and then that continues. But I was looking at this, looking at Hebrews 11, where the heroes of great faith. And I'm thinking for our industry, where most of the intangible stuff are not readily available, how do we use this faith message to help those who are new? So if you can comment on that would be great.
You know, I don't have my scriptures in my hands right now, but I believe my notations at the top of the Hebrews chapter that the word faith is mentioned 40 times, if I recall my notes. And who is of so little faith that in a moment of great disaster or heartbreak has not called to his God. And the podcast has really had an impact on people. One of the individuals that I had on the podcast was December 28th, I believe. And Bob Bodine is your neighbor, I believe, John. Do you know Bob?
I do. I know the name. Where do I know him from?
Bob is a entertainment and athletic. I think he's in that industry, placement guy.
Right.
But his book is called Two Chairs. And his mom taught him as a young boy that there's a chair for you and there's a chair for God. And when you get up in the morning, you better be ready on your knees or in your chair, because you're going to look to God and you're going to ask for that opportunity to be in the path of another, to serve somebody else. And I used to always want. I used to want more. Now I want to serve more. And it changed everything for me, Foster. I think your question is so good that I can't control what anybody else does or what they think, but I can have a desire for me to be in their path, to be someone that might use the words to uplift and to help them turn to the books, and then maybe they're going to get into one of their chairs. And this lady that watched the podcast, she's in my downline in Toronto, Canada as well. And she said, Dan, I have a story for you. And she wrote this entire lengthy story out on my Facebook Messenger. She said, I've never heard of anything like that. And so she said, my husband and I live in a very small apartment, and I got up the next morning to get in my chair to pray to God. And she said, and she's writing all this out. It was just so fascinating because I don't know who she is. I just know she's in my downline. And she said, then I paused. And Foster, she said, I thought that if I was going to be in my chair and if God was going to be over there in his chair, then maybe I better clean my house, because if God's going to be here, I think my house should be clean. And then she thought, well, maybe I should look a little better. And so one of the reasons why the military makes you make your bed instantly, right? You want to win right now, first thing in the morning. What Bob teaches you is get in that chair right now, you and God, saying, hey, who's out there in the world that I could call, that I could touch base with, that I could be a light to? And who is of so little faith that in a moment of great disaster or heartbreak has not called to his God? Who has not cried out when confronted with danger, death, or mystery beyond his norm experience or his comprehension? From where has this deep instinct come, which escapes from the mouth of all living creatures in moments of peril. It's a beautiful salesman's prayer, okay? And I just love the question because I know that for me, the 5 a.m. club, I know that my one of my partners used to say, if you're going to get up and lead the people, if you're going to lead the people, you got to get up and prepare before the people. And so if you're going to pray first, read first, or exercise first, whatever, you do whatever you can do to be your best. And I'm confident that God will take care of the rest.
Wow. Wow. Dan, that's an amazing place, I think, to finish. That once again, I have to thank all of you, but I have to thank Dan. Dan is a inspiration to all of us. He is a man of leadership skills. You know, there's you know, you hear about the type of income a guy like Dan makes, and you'll understand why. You understand why I just spent the last hour with him, because he's a leader of human beings, but he's a helper. He loves human beings. And, you know, Dan and I talk a little bit, and we were on a call with some of our colleagues, and we realized we had a moment, and I don't know if you remember this, Dan, or not, but we were on the phone with our colleagues, and most of them did not understand the power of Think and Grow Rich. Yeah. We were both shocked. We called each other afterwards to say, these guys don't get Think and Grow Rich. Like, wow. And then we talked about the fact that we knew that Waddles preceded Think and Grow Rich. And we talked about Waddles for a while. You know what's funny? I've had 4 interviews so far. I've interviewed 11 people around the world in network marketing, all huge earners. 4 of them so far have talked about, when I asked them their 3 favorite books, one of them is what? Wallace T. Waddles, The Science of Getting Rich. And Dan McCormick like resonated with that when we went back and forth on this other call. Another thing, and Dan, you don't even know this, so you're going to love this. So Dan is such a trendsetter that I became, as Foster knows, 4 years ago, I changed my health completely. I became total vegetarian, pretty much vegan, gave up a lot of stuff I shouldn't have been eating, and really got into the whole holistic health movement in a major way. And I study all kinds of people, some of which you guys know, some of which you don't. But you trip across these names. So I listen to a guy named David Avocado Wolf constantly. And David's an intense guy. And he's an intense guy, great guy. And anyway, so David's talking about a guy named Wim Hof. This is about 3 months ago. The next week, I see Dan doing an upside down push-up on the beach somewhere talking about Wim Hof breathing. I watch like a half an hour of TV a week. So last Thursday night, I think it was, I turned on the boob tube. I finished a call like this. It's like it's winding down for the night. What do? I turn on Real Sports with Brian Gumbel, and who's on? Wim Hof. I'm like, McCormick. It's like, how does he know all of these guys that I'm eventually going to go, hey, wait a minute, you know? So that's Dan McCormick. So Dan, thank you so much for being you. First of all,
that's great.
You've been the great human being you are, the great leader you are, and hopefully, you know, a couple of you are new tonight. Okay, and you're getting into our reading club here. And look, this has everything and nothing to do with Immunotech, okay? Because Dan's distributors are not my distributors, okay? You guys aren't his distributors, but you know what we understand? All leaders are readers. All readers are leaders. It's just that simple, right? So Dan, I'm going to give you the last word to comment on that, and we'll tell everybody to get on with their evening.
It's just a journey. I love being on the journey, and I hope I'll get invited to come back with you, because to me, this is just a joy. I mean, our 12 grandkids don't live here. Our 4 kids are married, and so my wife and I are like you. We don't watch a whole lot of TV, so we're books and podcasts, and I'll turn on a Wim Hof documentary or whatever later tonight or something, have some fun. But I hope if I can do something to serve you beyond just this hour, is you can go to habitfinder.com/social VIP. habitfinder.com/social VIP if you use social media in your business. If you want a larger social media presence, the Og Mandino company has been completely changed. John, even since you and I spoke last,
Oh, yeah.
The company has completely shifted because of a client, a single client who was a white hat hacker working at the DOD, working in the White House, and he's a client of the Augmentino company wanting to be a better person. And this guy knows every algorithm and everything about Facebook and everything that goes on with the algorithms. And we said, would you create a course for our clients that want to be more social and recruit more people? And he says, no, I could never do that. And I can't do that because I can never be known. I mean, nobody knows my name. You can't. So Paul said to him, well, can I do it? And the guy said, of course. And they figured out how to create a course for people, because I'm assuming most of you are on Facebook and or you try to meet more people somehow. And John, this changed the Augmentino company in 1 month so dramatically, because we have an entire course for a matter of a couple of dollars a day. It starts every Monday, where we teach you exactly how, when, and why to post, or why not to post, or why not to comment. All because of a white hat hacker. So you can go to habitfinder.com. You can take the assessment for free. You can go to habitfinder.com/social VIP if you want to learn more about how to get out of the pond that you might be in with hundreds of followers or thousands of followers and into the ocean, as the white hat hacker says, of billions of people. And they're waiting to meet you. They're going to join your business. You've got a product that deserves the attention of everybody.
So that was habitfinder.com, and what was the /
Social VIP.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, habitfinder.com/social VIP. Or you can just go to habitfinder.com and take the free assessment if you just want to measure those thoughts.
I'm going to be on there. I'm going to be on there. And this is the type of stuff I learned from Dan McCormick, folks. So, it's so funny, Dan, because people ask me all the time, well, you got all this information, you got all this knowledge. And I'm like, you're one of the guys. I tell them, well, one of the guys I talk to is Dan McCormick. You're yourself, and there's a couple of other guys in the industry. And frankly, there's a couple of guys outside the industry that just are always cutting edge and always studying. And by the way, Dan's not money motivated at this point in his life. Okay, he likes to make money. He's got 12 grandkids. He wants to leave them the legacy, right? But what he does is he understands his impact on humanity. That when he's gone, there'll be millions of people around the world that have been touched by the greatest salesman in the world, by the podcasts and by the information that he shares there, the business that he built, the training. I've seen Dan do training. I've been on some of his millionaire training calls on Saturday afternoons throughout the years. Whenever I get a chance and I don't have a call, it's like I'll hop on one of Dan's calls and just audit it. I mean, hear what Dan's talking about today. Okay, yeah. So if you wonder sometimes, my cheat sheet, McCormick's one of my cheat sheet guys. He's one of the guys, let me see what Dan's talking about, So Dan, it's always an honor. Thank you so much. Thank you for letting us borrow you for the last hour and a half for your family. And I know you just got back from your trip, so I'll let you get back to your evening. Awesome. Say hello to your wife and the family. We appreciate you, man. We love you. And we would be an honor to have you on anytime. Hey, guys, one real fast thing now, okay? We've gone through this book, all right? So next week, we're going to start a new book, all right? And what I'm thinking, and Dan, I'd like your input on this, Dan, because I know you know this book like I know this book. The seasons are changing, right? We're getting to spring. COVID is hopefully at the end of its vicious cycle of what it's done to the world, okay? Yep. So the book, The Seasons of Life, you guys have heard me quote it, okay? Wow. By Mr. Rohn, Jim Rohn. Oh, yeah. Okay. Wow. Pick it up over Amazon if you don't have it. It is life-changing. It's based on the book of Ecclesiastes. Okay. Yep. And the guy who wrote it with Jim Rohn, Ron Reynolds, I used to work with for 3.5 years. We sat next to each other every single day and put together all sorts of stuff for a company here in Dallas. So I kind of know the origins of it. And I spent an entire afternoon having lunch with Jim Rohn discussing this book. So what we'll do with that one, another good friend of Dan's and mine, Ron Henley in Atlanta, Georgia, founder of the Network Marketing Hall of Fame. We'll do what we did with Dan tonight. We'll go through it. We'll talk back and forth, whatever it is, 4, 5, 6 weeks, right? We'll get there, and then we'll bring Ron on, because Ron worked with Jim Rohn. So we can actually bring Ron on, and Ron Henley can actually talk to us as well. So listen, guys, tell your friends about this. Tell your non-network marketing friends about this, your insurance agent, your realtor, your doctor, your kids. Get them on this material. It's life changing. And that's what we're out to do, is to change people's lives. And oh, by the way, build a bigger business. Absolutely. Another bigger car, another bigger boat, not going to make a real difference when you're gone. The books, the materials, the stuff that you leave of value to your family is going to be the educational stuff that you can only get from being on calls like this and reading these materials, not watching the boob tube. So anyway.
John, what was the name of the Jim Rohn book?
The Seasons of Life.
Yeah, I'm reading it now.
Oh, perfect.
Read your book and Foster's book yesterday. Good book.
Great.
Thank you. Bought it from Tremendous Leadership and downloaded it on the computer to read.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Good story. Good story.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks,
Thank you.
have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks,
John.
Dan.
Thank you, Foster.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
See you later, Hyacinth.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Yes. Good night, G, and good night, Sue.
Night, Hyacinth.